Hello everybody and welcome back to Amity Bloom. I want to share with you some of my favorite ideas that I used in these 3 little journals. This week is also special because it's my annual Black Friday sale on my digitals and my classes. So everything in my Etsy shop, all of the digitals are 50% off, which is amazing, and then my classes are 25% off. I always love offering this at this time of the year. Some of my digitals that I've made in my early years, I will be discontinuing. Everything after California Dreaming, I am keeping, and everything before I am discontinuing, just because I want to make room for new digitals. And I know I get overwhelmed when there's too many listings in one shop. So we'll leave all the links below, as well as the information when the sale is over. So these 3 journals, I have filmed a course for them. This is the Artist in Bloom style, different interpretations, and then this is my little Honeycomb Journal. Out of all my courses, this little journal was definitely a little bit more challenging because of the size, but I think that this would be the cutest Christmas journal because it kind of looks like an ornament. Definitely a sewing journal, it's just the cutest thing. I wanted to share the beginning, the opening page. This is a wallpaper embossed pocket, which I loved. And of course I have some little fabric washi from a couple years ago now. But I loved this idea. Basically taking a scrap piece of paper that I had and then printing out on vellum my typewriter script and talking about what the journal represents. It reminded me of when you have a book from the library and in the pocket comes a library card. So this idea I think is something that I want to incorporate in my future journals. So incorporating a little presentation sentiment to your journal I think is really sweet, kind of like a greeting card. And then I added a little tab and made it like an index card just by adding scraps to the original scrap piece of paper. And that just tucks into the pocket. I thought that was so precious. And then on the main page, on the first page, out of little honeycombs, I made a flower of my paper scraps. And I share all of this within the course. And this flower is what represents me. And every little scrap paper, I add a little word that I think represents part of my personality. So that is something else that I thought was a really sweet thing to include as an introduction page. And then of course the journal is filled with a ton of honeycomb pages and of course honeycomb pockets with little honeycomb journaling cards that are made out of fabric. They take a lot of time because the stitching has to be perfect, but it's just the sweetest little book. But I wanted to share that opening page with you all as I thought it was absolutely precious and a really sweet idea to include in any of your journals. This one you guys might recognize, my Artist in Bloom. I teach how to make this exact journal in the course. And of course now I have adapted the same techniques but to create different style of journals because it's my favorite way of creating a book by far. The first journal page that I want to share is this one. I really loved the ephemera pieces and the pockets that I created. Very simple, but I think can be applied to any journal. In this pocket, I tucked in there one of my floating pockets. I believe I have a video on this a couple years ago. I shared how to make these floating pockets. I also created little wallpaper postage stamps and such beautiful wallpaper. But this was a really darling idea. I also made some little mini bookmarks that you can add sentiments to. And then this one says, there was a flower in her heart. So it just goes to show that you don't have to make, a big ephemera piece. You can make little tiny pieces. And if you tuck them into little pockets, it's something that's really special to then use. And it's so inspiring to make because you use a lot of your scraps. I think I'm going to create some layered pockets for Christmas because this idea I just love and I think it would be perfect for the Christmas time. I made little postcards out of tea stained paper using a stamp that I had and a little postage stamp. I made the actual stamp out of fabric, so fabric scraps that I had lying around, and then I stitched around the edges to give it the border of a postcard, and I stitched in the center. Isn't this the cutest little thing? I'm going to be doing this to give as Christmas cards to my loved ones. It is such a caring way to make a postcard. So inspired to create these in a Christmas theme, so stay tuned for those videos. And then on this page, I just use a scrap piece of ledger and this beautiful French fabric that I had. I believe we gave these in some fabric bundles a couple years ago. But it's just a little pocket, and in the pocket is another fabric tag. The idea of a pocket and a tag covered in fabric I think is very special too. Now this page is really sweet. I took a piece of vintage fabric, which will eventually be turned into a washi. I can't wait to share with you guys the restock as well as the new designs, but this fabric is going to be one of them. And then I added some lace just with glue. There's no stitching required, so you don't have to stitch everything. You can just layer it up with glue. But because the lace is mesh, it's transparent a little bit, so you can tuck in a tag and you can see elements of the script of the tag, and it's just really lovely. So this is a great way to add more layers to your journals. Use a base fabric and then add a mesh lace on top. And it doesn't cut the page in half. It kind of continues the page, if that makes sense. But this was really darling as well. The next spread in here was this little pocket. I also filmed a video project on this for those of you who wanted to create something similar. What I loved about it is that yes, there's fabric pieces collaged on top of the paper. If you lift up the lace and you lift up the fabric, there's little sentiments behind there. Hear the birds' songs. And I was like, wait, why isn't this glued down? And I lifted it up and I was so surprised by that sweet sentiment. So I absolutely will be incorporating this in my Christmas journal, which is the journal that I'm making now. I tucked in here some ephemera pieces from Her Story and my newest Christmas kit, just to give you an idea of how it will look like when you put something in the pocket. It's just so beautiful, all of the layers put together in little buttons. This idea is so precious and can easily be incorporated into any style of a journal. Just choose sentiments that spark joy in your hearts and then combine it with fabrics that you love or scraps that you might have. Another idea that I also created and I put into my journal were these deconstructed pages, but they're just journal cards that I made out of fabric, and I can film a tutorial about this if you'd like me to. They're super simple to make, but they're really beautiful. But they're essentially collages that I made, and then with lovely little sentiments and beautiful fabrics, but it feels so nice. This was another idea. If you have leftover fabrics and sentiments and papers that we all have and we always don't know what to do with them, turn them into a journal page. Stitch it up, glue it up, and reach for them when you need some ephemera for a journal, or if you want to create a journal cover and you don't know what your focal point should be, have these ready on hand, and they're beautiful. They're like little collage pieces. Now for Her Story. This is the newest journal that I recently just finished. I will be sharing a full flip through of this journal as well as some ephemera pieces that I made to go along with it. But I wanted to share a couple of page ideas that I thought were really sweet. For this journal, I wanted to experiment with some hidden like tuck spots and pockets. I usually do flips and, little pockets here and there, but I wanted to try to create like an illusion of a hidden pocket. And this was my best interpretation of the way to do this. So on this page here, it says Love's Golden Memories, and then I just added different parts of the paper. This is from the Her Story digital kit with this lovely photograph of a woman in June of 1942. So sweet. I knew that I wanted to do a lot of secretive journaling in this book, so I used the same paper and I just cut different patterns of the paper to make a hidden tuck spot and a hidden pocket. So this page is similar to I Want the Twilight and You, just looks like a normal page, but it's actually a full pocket. I experimented with some secret little pockets with this beautiful mesh quality to it, but it's perfect because you can still see the design on the back that you used. In your center signature, add some mesh lace, which gives you layered pockets, and then you have a pocket with the actual paper. So essentially you have double pockets to play with. If you want to write something that's a little bit more personal, or you want to hide some ephemera, you can put it behind the paper pocket and you won't be able to see it. And then if you have some ephemera that you would like to peek through, you can place it in the mesh pocket. And that way you create a really sweet layered effect. Like little paper magic. Or fabric magic is what we're creating in our journals. So these were some ideas that I was very much inspired by when I was going through these journals of how to decorate the inside of your journal, creating, ephemera from scrap pieces, creating little pockets and even little postcards out of paper, and layering up fabrics and laces to create something really beautiful. And of course, creating hidden little tuck spots, which this is a little hidden tuck spot, but I will share more of that with the flip through. There's so many ways to play with our journals and to play with our scraps. It was like taking a trip down memory lane with these journals that I created years ago, as well as the ephemera pieces. You never know when going back, through time to see the creations that you did years before can really inspire you in the creations that you're making right now. So I hope that everybody's having an amazing week. Definitely make sure you take an opportunity to get some digitals or take a class if you haven't. I will be back very soon to share some lovely little projects with all of you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm sending so many blessings, so much love your way. And until next time, I hope that you're having a wonderful day full of peace and love. Bye-bye, and talk to you soon.